I'm Lynne. I'm a child psychiatrist and a relief worker, and I've spent most of my professional life working in places like this refugee camp on the Somali border. But in 2015, I found that refugees were arriving in Northern Europe, and I decided to get in my car and drive over and see what was going on. I arrived to find a scene like this. Worse than that Somali border, worse than Balakot after the Pakistan earthquake, worse than northern Chad after the genocide in Darfur. It was horrifying, and yet what was extraordinary was that in that situation called the jungle outside Calais, people had somehow created community with very little help from outsiders. They'd built churches, mosques, shops, restaurants. So I could hang out and listen to what people had to say. And I met a young man called Tawab. He was 19 years old. He left his village in Afghanistan when the Taliban bombed it, killed his parents, and tried to forcibly recruit him. He was 10 at the time, he'd spent the next 9 years wandering Europe, and now decided to ask the French government to repatriate him to Afghanistan. Why? I asked him. And this is what he told me. You don't know human rights. You teach them in Afghanistan. Why do you think I left Afghanistan? Because if I had not, they would have forced me to join a group. It was the only way to survive. There are no human rights there. The government fucks people up. It's impossible to be a normal person in Afghanistan. The Taliban is everywhere, and now we have ISIL. In Italy, I was in a camp for 14 months, but what can I do with asylum in Italy when there's no work, no housing, no benefits? And yes, I know it's the same in the UK. I know that now. That's why I'm going back. And tell me this. How can you come and work in my country when I cannot work in yours? How can you come with a Kalashnikov and no passport when I'm not allowed in yours? Your soldier, he's born in England. He comes to my country. He walks my roads and mountains and villages with his Kalashnikov, and we give him tea. We give him everything. I don't have a Kalashnikov. I'm not like you. I'm just a donkey. Afghan, Iraqi, Syrian, we are all kicked. You see me as a dog, but I am a human being, and all humans are the same. We understand the law, just like you. We don't break laws. So now, when I get home, I will go on TV and tell people, when you get to Europe, they fuck you up. They beat you and put you in prison. They hate you. So if they come here, you have to kill them. I cannot tell you how profoundly that conversation affected me. More than 1 million migrants arrived in Europe in 2015. 4,000 of them died trying. Meeting Tawab in the jungle made me realize I had a choice. I could go on telling myself that this global flight had nothing to do with the centuries of exploitation and theft through which Europe has enriched itself, and that the best way of keeping out these marauding swarms fleeing the violence and conflict that we're complicit in creating was to build higher fences like the one behind me and thicker walls. The trouble was that Tawab's despair would suggest that that method of dealing with those fleeing terror and seeking democracy actually fosters the thing we fear. I wanted to do something different. I thought I would like to really listen, not just to pundits and politicians and all the usual people. I wanted to hear the voices of the migrants and refugees themselves, particularly children. I wanted to find a way to give them a chance to tell their stories to you so that you could really hear what their lives were about. Luckily, I had some help. I met a young refugee, a law student from Damascus called Hussein Jackal, who was working with refugees in northern Greece. He asked me to come and help him with psychosocial activities with children, and we decided to set up the storytelling project. We would give children the means to tell stories in any way they wished, words and pictures, and then we would publish them on the World Wide Web. So that's what we did. How did we do it? Well, first of all, of course, we asked parental consent from the families for the children to participate. Then we gave them, if they wanted, cheap digital cameras. We did not spend hours teaching them how to be photographers. We let them work that out for themselves completely. We did have some rules. Number one, ask consent from your subjects. Number 2, do not give the camera to anybody else. Keep it on you at all times, even if family and friends beg you for it. Don't film fights, arguments, police, military, they don't like it. Take care of yourself at all times. Bring the camera back. I'm going to share with you a little bit of film that children made themselves.
مرحبا معك مصورة الحمد لله فيني صورة يعني بعد إذنك إذا ما في مشكلة السلام عليكم كيف وضعكم هون؟ كثير سيء ليش؟ كثير سيء يعني ما بيتاكل الشرب ما بيشرب يعني نتمنى نطلع على ألمانيا نقعد بأمان وحتى يعني هون في شوب لا شوب ما فرجينا وضع الحاويات يعني في وسخ معاش فرجينا وضع الحاويات وين الحاويات شوفي الوسخ شوفوا هاي يعني والله العظيم مو أمان يعني والله العظيم مو أمان نتمنى نصير دكتور ونطلع على ألمانيا والله إن شاء الله قريبة إن شاء الله أنا قريب بكتب ألمانيا يلا أخي تريد شي؟ لا.
Once the children have brought the cameras back, we download all their film and pictures and we give the cameras to another group of children. And then this is a bit I really love. We sit children down one by one in front of their own work and we ask them to choose 10 pictures that we will print and they will keep for themselves, and 1 picture that we're going to share with everyone else on the web and in an exhibition. And then we ask them to tell us why they've chosen that picture. It's absolutely their choice, we never interfere. Why that picture? What's the story behind it? Why is it important to them? What's astonishing to me is that many of the children choose a picture of someone they love, in spite of the horrific experiences they've been through, in spite of the world they're living in now. You just saw Maid in the film. This is his father. He was 9 years old when he took it. I'm glad to say he is in Germany today. Or they choose pictures of the natural world and the beauties around them. When I was working in Mexico with children who'd been deported from the United States, this is 13-year-old Emma's picture, and she chose to take the birds outside her window. Or they focus on something that connects them with memories of home. This picture of the bicycle by Jamie was taken in Belize. She's a refugee from Central America, and the local media liked it so much that they filmed her telling her story.
Yo elegí esa foto porque yo tenía una bicicleta en mi país. Era más pequeña que así rosada. Yo jugaba con ella. Tuve que dejarla porque lo venimos acá a Belice. Allá a mi abuela le llevaron unos hombres malos a robar. Le dijeron que iban buscando a mi papá y a mi abuelo para matarlo. Ya tuvimos que venir por eso. Si tuviera la bicicleta aquí, la llevara a la escuela. Y la anduviera fuera a comprar con ella a la tienda. A mí me gusta aquí a la escuela. A mí me gusta aprender todas las materias. Aquí no hay violencia así como es en mi país. Aquí yo no tengo miedo, nada de miedo. Ya puedo poquito en inglés. I like to live in Belize.
Or they choose to photograph objects that remind them of someone they've loved and lost. This is 13-year-old Ulysses' picture of his father's guitar. His father was killed by gang violence in Central America, and he and his family had to flee. They took the guitar with them. Sometimes children want to tell their stories in words. I met Sadiq when he was 13 years old, living in a children's home in Italy. He had to, when he was 7 years old, the fighting erupted in his village in Somalia, and he had lost his father and his brothers. They were killed. He couldn't find his mother, and he had to flee across the border following strangers. He arrived in a foreign city where he slept on the streets, and at 7 years old, he had to work out how to take care of himself. This is part of the story he told me. Some people say they want shoe cleaning. So I see one man with a car, and I say, I want to help. And the man says, okay, and gives me some water, and I clean his car, and he gives me some money, and I go to a shop and buy some stuff to clean shoes. When people have seen what I have seen, it makes you older than your age. Because I was small and I did not have a mother and father, I had to be my own mother and father. I went to the market and found people who could help me. So every day I was in the market cleaning shoes and cleaning cars all day. And I cleaned shoes and I cleaned cars and I kept all the money from cleaning. I saved as much as I could and only used a little for the food. I did this for another year until I was 9 years old. After that, I could buy clothes, and I took a house alone. By house, Sadiq means something like what you're looking at on the screen. By the time he was 11, he was in a position to take care of 2 of his friends who'd also escaped across the border. I showed them how to work like me, and I let them live in my house. I didn't ask them for money, because I knew what it's like for them. If I'd had more, I would have given it to them. At that time, I had 3 jobs, so I shared the work with them so they could see how to do it. I was happy to help them. Unfortunately, the effects of the conflict spilled over the border, and Sadiq and his friends decided to travel across 3 countries until they arrived in Libya, where, like so many, they were kidnapped, locked in a room, beaten and tortured. Phones were put in their hands, and they were told to phone relatives at home to get money. We told him, we don't have money, we don't have any people to send money. And he said, if you don't have money, I'll kill you. So we told him, we don't have money, so kill us. We did not have a place to go to the toilet, nowhere to shit, nothing. It was like a prison. I thought my life was ending and I would escape this room. He did finally manage to locate someone who knew his mother and ask her to beg for money. He mimed his mother with her apron out in the marketplace, and he was crying as he told this bit of the story, and I was crying, the translator was crying, and I said, Sadiq, you don't have to go on with this. Please, if it's upsetting you, you can stop. He said, no, I want people to know this story. She begged, and she was weeping, saying, my son is dying in Libya, and she got a small amount and sent it to me. Sadiq made it from Libya to Italy. He told me, I stood on the boat for 2 days. There was no room to sit. There was no food, so I did not need to shit or pee. God is wonderful. Sometimes children draw their stories. I met 9-year-old Mia in Samos this June. Yes, there is still a migrant crisis in the Mediterranean. 40,000 people have arrived on the Aegean Islands this year. They're just part of the 70.4 million forcibly displaced people in the world today. Mia's extraordinary. She drew her life story in 14 pictures in under an hour, stopping after each one to tell me what the picture was about. They're brilliant. They're just little dramatic sketches that catch a moment with a point of color in the sky. I love this first one. Her mother is pregnant with Mia and looking happy, but look at father. He's looking very anxiously at the rockets in the sky. In the next one, father carries her mother pregnant over the mountains to Lebanon. In the next one, Mia is being born, and she particularly wants you to notice the pink blanket in which she is wrapped and her tuft of brown hair. The drawings continue with her mother hearing of her father's death by phone, the escape over the mountains of Turkey, a boat to Greece, and school in Samos where she dreams of going to America. Drawing pictures allowed Mia to imagine a past that she can't actually directly remember and dream of a future she hasn't yet experienced. I really love doing this workshop. Children do have a voice. They can advocate. They can connect with you sitting here across the world. It allows them to be creative and cooperative. It gives significance and validity to their experiences. 8-year-old Zainab, she's Afghan. I also met her on Samos. She said, can I draw the happiest day of my life? I said, of course. And she drew this beautiful picture of a picnic in the park in Afghanistan with her family. I've now done the storytelling workshop in Greece and Italy and France with children from Africa, the Middle East, from Asia. I've done it in Belize and Mexico with children from North and Central America. And what these children have taught me is that we are all storytellers. Through storytelling, we celebrate our lives and empower ourselves. Storytelling lets us decide what to keep and what to let go, what aspects of our identity we want to share with other people. Storytelling helps us make sense of tragedy. It helps us grieve, mourn, and memorialize loss. It helps us immortalize the people and places that we cherish. I think what all these pictures, stories, words, photographs have at their heart is that they're about relationships. And what they tell us is that children all over the world want the same thing: love, connection, beauty, and an opportunity to care for others. I'm going to end, as we end always when we do the project, we have a show. We show the children's we show film, we show the children's chosen picture, and we read their words aloud in whatever languages are appropriate. This is Abdo's tree. And you all know Abdo. He's 9 years old. He is in your face. He is never where you want him to be. He is always in trouble. He's sulky, he's moody, he doesn't want to give up the camera, he interferes with other children. But when we sat him down to tell his own story, the words poured out without prompting. And this is what he said to us. I love trees so much, but I couldn't get the full picture of this one. I like this tree the most, though. It's the most beautiful. It looks like a painting. It's pointy at the top, a perfect tree. And I also asked the tree permission to take her picture, and she said yes. It reminds me of the greenery in Ladkia. There was a tree there that looked like this one, and I loved it too. So when I saw this, I loved it. It looks like one of those ancient trees. They've been through everything and have seen it all. They've seen refugees from all over the world. They witness our lives. Allah loves trees and created them to be good for us. Nature is good to us and cares for us. I feel safe when I'm around it. And trees never die until someone harms them. That's why God punishes those who cut trees down. However long they live, the tree sees everything and never forgets. Every leaf on it protects you. So every time you pick a leaf, you'll be punished. Each leaf was born for a purpose and has a past and a story. For every refugee it sees, a new leaf grows. It protects us from the sun. The Prophet Muhammad loved trees too. This tree is a source of strength in the camp. After we'd finished reading this in Arabic and English, everybody in the tent got up and cheered and cheered and cheered. And Abdo, sitting down at the front with the other children, smiled and smiled and smiled. I have never seen him look so happy. Thank you very much.